Welcome everybody to our webcast today. We'll be talking about Azure cost optimization and Azure management. My name's Irfan. I head up the public cloud practice here, and I'm joined by the lovely Chris Thompson, who's one of our senior consultants.
Good morning.
Everyone. How are you?
Not bad, yourself?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Excited to be here. So, what I want to kick off with is just talk a little bit about our cloud practice that both me and Chris are part of. We've built over the last 7 years. Specifically over the last 2 to 3 years, we've launched some amazing services and products, including well-architected reviews and landing zone reviews, and a comprehensive, fully managed service that's multi-tiered. So in future webcasts and podcasts, we'll be talking about those, but today we're focusing in on some quick wins and longer-term strategy for your Azure cost optimization and management. So Chris, let me start off right at the beginning. Look, where can we go and find some information about cost within the Azure portal? I know there's cost analysis built in, but how's the best way to get there?
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, generally people only come asking this when they have a hefty bill, so it's quite a useful thing to know where it is. So as you can see on my screen, it's here in the middle. Well, that's just because I use it quite often, so that's just my recent and
okay. So if you don't use it often,
you come to the left here, and then you hit that button, and then you come down to cost management and billing. So this is the first screen you will see. What we want to do is we want to go to cost management then, and then cost analysis.
Okay, so we're already 3 clicks in, and we still haven't got to what we want to see.
We still haven't got to it yet. No. So the next thing to consider here is that we're actually using what we call landing zones.
Right.
So we have multiple subscriptions and multiple management groups in different hierarchies. Some of the viewers might only have one subscription, so it will go directly to that subscription. However, ourselves, it just goes back to the last one that you've used.
Okay.
If you want to change that scope you'd have to come into change here, and then go through the hierarchy to find the specific subscription.
So just for clarification, we follow best practice and we try and deploy landing zones to most of our customers.
Yeah.
In that case, you need to select the scope and therefore a specific subscription. Yeah. But Chris, there are some customers who don't have a significant environment and they might only have one subscription.
Yeah.
It will default to that subscription and you can just jump straight into that.
Or if it doesn't, it will show root management group and then the subscription underneath it.
Perfect. Okay.
So yeah, we'll just come into here. We're using the management group in this instance. Then we'll go to accumulated costs. Now, straight out of the bat.
Well, what scares me here straight away is it looks like the costs are just going one way and they're going to keep going up. This is a bit scary for me. But that's not actually what this is saying, isn't it? It's actually all the costs adding up over a period of time.
Yeah, so this is an accumulated view.
Yeah.
So this is what what it's forecasting to be.
Yeah.
I don't particularly like this view, and you only get relevant information when you scroll down to the bottom. It gives you a little bit more of a granular information about the types of services that you have, the locations and the results.
So we can see a split between virtual machines, storage, Sentinel, and so on. Yeah. So, Chris, just to make more sense of the graph above, I don't think it's always useful to use accumulated. I prefer seeing something like a daily cost.
Yeah.
So can we have a quick look?
Yeah. So I mean, if you are only looking at if you're looking at a specific month, then obviously daily would be a good view to look at.
Yeah. And the area, if I'm honest, I'm not a big fan of the area.
Yeah.
My preference is column stacked. So everyone has their own preference, and so please do pick one you like. But having a look at column stack, why I like this is you can clearly see there's a consistent daily cost and there isn't any fluctuations.
Yeah. Again, but it doesn't actually give you any relevant information about on that particular day what it is that's adding up to that particular cost.
Is there a way we can do that?
Yeah, so what we can do is we can use group by. Now I like two different group bys. One is meter category.
Okay, so now this is making a lot more sense, isn't it? What it's saying is this is your cost and this is the makeup of your cost.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you can see here is over this period of time that we were using Sentinel every day, but on these period here, these 4 days, Sentinel wasn't really
So
being
clear
used.
as day, the cost has dropped, but it's clearly apparent why that cost has dropped straight away. So, you know, that's a great way to just using the same tool, but in a slightly different way that's suited to you. You can play with, if you click change the column to line, you know, some people prefer that. However, for myself, I like to see the actual stacked, but you can see here the one that's gone down is Sentinel. So if we go back to stacked, and then Chris, I can see some projections here that Azure thinks that's what the projected spend was be. How about if we want to go back and look at, like, let's say last month?
Yeah, so what we can do is we go up to the top left here, and then the previous and next actually goes through. So if you're in a daily or a 7 days monthly, we'll actually go up to the previous month or to the next month.
Okay.
So we're in August now. So if we click previous, it will actually show us July. So yeah, that gives us the
so we
whole
can
of
clear,
July.
well, immediately what I can see here is that there isn't any significant fluctuations, and I think that's really important. What you're looking for is cost anomaly, and we can see here a consistent spend over all the different workloads, no significant change.
Yeah.
So Chris, how about if I wanted to look over a quarter? Can we have a look at a previous
so
quarter?
if we go down to here, and then we can click last quarter.
Okay, so they're all pre-set, and you can have a bespoke one as well.
You can have a bespoke one, yeah.
Oh, that's really busy. So I think that might be more prudent.
That's set to daily.
Yeah.
So what we can do is, in this instance, we can say, right, okay, well, let's put it to monthly. That gives us a...
Yeah, and I can clearly see here there is a deviation. However, this was planned. We planned to increase workloads in this month and reduce in this month. So you can hopefully clearly you can see there how you can, with one view, have a look at the fluctuations over a period of time.
Yeah.
One last one. Can we go to the last 6 months? Is that possible?
Yep. So if we click the last 6 months.
Okay, and again we can see there was some consistency there. We've had a scheduled uplift in workload, and then we've taken some of that out. So single view, you can clearly see what's happening.
Yeah.
Great.
And then we can also use the other group by, which I like, is resource group, which then allows you to see where that particular service is or where the fluctuation cost is coming from, which particular part of your
so if you scroll down a little bit, we can see the resource groups here at the bottom. So what you're saying here is your individual resources that you've grouped together can be, you can look at the costs from that perspective as well.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so moving on, I think the next step, now we know where to look and try and find where the information is. We want to look at some kind of optimization, cost management, take it to the next level. Where would you start to kind of get some advice on what can be said
Yeah,
here?
so again, top left, and believe it or not, it's called Advisor.
It does what it says on the tin?
Yep, absolutely.
And immediately when I come to this page, Chris, I always focus on the score, security score. But obviously, that security score is lower because we need to, this is a dev tenant and we want to test that out. But this easily distracts you. You immediately look at that. But today, right now, it's an important distraction. But today we're focusing on that cost optimization score.
So we click on cost.
Right, okay, so we've got some actual recommendations from Microsoft themselves.
Yeah.
Can you talk through a couple of these for us?
Yeah, so what you will find is it will give you all the recommendations sorted by impact, so high, medium, low. So the top one is consider database for Postgres SQL reserved instances.
That's a mouthful.
That is a mouthful. And then consider virtual machine reserved instances and savings plans.
So to be honest, what I find here is, from my experience, is that it isn't actually accurate all the time because there's a duplication, because you could really sometimes only have one of the two reservations or service plans, savings plans, sorry. Now, I've got a question for you. What can you describe what a reservation actually is? Because this is a big deal.
Yeah, so a reservation doesn't actually tie to a virtual machine. A lot of people get under the impression that you have a virtual machine and you get a reserved instance for that virtual machine. It doesn't work like that. What you do is you have a reservation for a SKU of machine. So you might have two virtual machines, D4, AS, etc., and you buy a reservation for that.
Okay, so just to clarify, is this correct? You buy a reservation because in this era of compute and you only use what you consume,
Yep.
even in that era, Microsoft would like some kind of commitment and in return offers you some saving.
Yep.
So in a reservation, you can buy something for 3 years or 1 year saying, I'm definitely going to use this compute, and the savings range from 30% to 50%. And what a reservation is actually doing is saying, if you have these particular SKUs or these particular type of virtual machines,
Yep.
regardless if you have 1, 2, or 3, you can apply a reservation to introduce a significant discount.
Yeah.
Is
So
that right?
yeah, you purchase a reservation for a SKU, and you might have one reservation for a particular SKU, and you might have two virtual machines of that SKU. Now, each one of those virtual machines might only be up 50% of the time, different times, so they're not overlapping. That will give a 100% utilization. So you can have multiple reservations for multiple workloads.
So single reservation, single machine, the machine's on 100% of the time, you'll utilize the entire
Yep.
value of that
Yep.
reservation. However, a single reservation for two same virtual machines and they both utilize 50%, you still utilize the entirety of that
Yeah,
reservation.
as long as those utilizations are at separate, so you might have 9 while 5,
Yeah.
5 while whatever time, as long as they're not being consumed at the same time, you will use that 100%.
We call it internally the art of the reservation. Assessing it itself, we've got some tools to assess how best to use service plans and savings plans and reservations and when to do right sizing. So we'd love to talk to you about that, but this in itself is a bit of an art. So it's not always recommended to follow advisors' immediate advice, but it should be a trigger for a conversation, definitely.
I'm just going to click into it.
Okay.
So we can show you what it will actually look like. So what this does is it's saying these are the subscriptions and these are the recommended quantities for these particular types of SKUs. And it's saying, so it's a 3-year term, so a 3-year reservation, and it's looking back 30 days to get that analysis to see whether or not you will require.
Is 30 days enough, do you think?
So if you can go for a higher period to look back on, then obviously you get a better understanding and a better value.
Okay.
Definitely.
And if you've decided, you can postpone or dismiss these.
Yeah, if you don't want to get that particular reservation, you can actually postpone that for a later date, or you can say, well, I'm not going to get a reservation for that.
Okay.
I don't want to see it, so you can dismiss that. And that's in any of the recommendations.
And it's a good idea to keep on top of those recommendations within Advisor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So savings plans. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing here's an interesting topic. What's a savings plan, and how does it differentiate itself from a reservation?
So as we said, a reservation is for a SKU, whereas a savings plan isn't to a particular SKU. But what you're saying is you're going to commit to a particular spend of compute, for instance.
Right.
So they're best used for things like I don't know, it might be dev environments or some UAT machines, or
virtual
desktops. Something that you might not be able to predict the usage of it, but you want a saving on that particular.
Just for clarification, what you're saying is, compared to reservations, what saving plans allowed you to, rather than a particular virtual machine type, you can actually group together lots of different resources and say, let's say it's compute, and say, I want to achieve a saving across this group, because you can't really predict exactly what each one of those.
Yeah. So reservations are for things you can predict.
Yeah.
And saving plans are for anything
so they can be
else.
used together.
They can be used together, yeah.
But a lot of the time, advisor will recommend the same savings plans for the same workload. So it looks like there's a duplication here on savings. So you probably couldn't achieve this level of saving because you'd choose one or the other or a certain combination of the two.
Yeah.
So great, we've covered off reservations and savings plans and how they can be used individually and in combination. So Chris, a couple of the other areas. Let's start with right sizing.
Yep. So I would generally do right sizing before we start looking at reservations, because once you do reservations, you're locked in. So if there is anything that says it's been underutilised, for instance, then it's best to get those sorted out before you do your reservations.
Okay, so this is the real dream of cloud, isn't it? Where you only are going to use what you need. So this is where we make that shift from having to buy hardware and try and maximize the utilization of that hardware. This is the dream of cloud computing, where you only use what you need and you're able to shift the amount of workload you've got either up or down depending on your requirement. Yep. So let's have a look at that, Chris.
Yeah, so this is recommending 2 machines that need to be right sized. So it's saying the recommended rule is, or recommendation rule is that when the CPU is less than 100%, it's going to recommend that you right size it to another SKU.
So in this instance, if it's less than 100%, you're obviously gonna go down.
Yep.
And look at an alternative, cheaper virtual machine that can deliver the same results.
Yeah. So this obviously is saying it's 21% and 26%, and it's looking back over a 7-day period. Now, for me, that's not really a period to use to consider right sizing a machine on. Doesn't give you the best
results and insight. So you're suggesting what, maybe a longer period?
Yeah. So what we can do is you can do configure recommendation rules. So we can click on here, and then we'll just select one subscription in this instance. But we can say when the CPU usage, for instance, is less than 20%, that's when we look at putting a recommendation to for it to be underutilised. And then we can also say, well, we'll also look back a period of 90 days rather than 7 days.
Okay.
That'll take 24 hours for those recommendations to be reconsidered. But yeah, that's the best way to look at those.
All right, so to really assess the usage and utilisation of that workload, have it over a longer period of time and set the level of utilisation you want to assess.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you show me once where you can actually see the results of that?
Yeah. So what then you can also do is it will actually give you view your usage patterns for that actual machine.
Great.
So this, for instance, will go over the last 7 days, and you can see the CPU usage.
Okay. So there's a couple of spikes.
You can put that back to 30 days, for instance, and you can actually see the period of time that machine's been up. So
okay, fantastic.
It's a good way to look at it as well.
So next I want to move on to something interesting just because of the way it sounds. Orphan disks, and resources. How did these resources lose their parents? Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, so as you can see, we've got a couple of disks here where probably a machine's been deleted. Now, what actually happens if we go to virtual machines, and I'll just go to my demo one, for instance. If we click on this and then click delete, it will delete that machine.
Okay. And what's wrong with that? Gone.
So what's wrong with that actually is if you actually go into the machine and click delete from within here, the only thing it's going to delete is the virtual machine and the public IP address.
Because that's the only thing that's actually
so when you first set the machine up, there's in each of these sections there's a delete when virtual machine is deleted.
Right.
So it's whatever preference you have. However, when you click delete from the virtual machines pane, it will only delete the virtual machine and nothing else in the background.
So this is really interesting. Just to be clear, you can delete a virtual machine and leave behind the OS disk, the data disk, and the network interfaces, which do have a cost. And so actually, that's really important to look beyond just deleting the machine from the front face and actually not leave orphaned resources behind.
I mean, sometimes people do want to delete the virtual machine and leave the disks there, you know, for archiving purposes and retention, etc. But yeah, often people don't know that it won't delete the OS disk unless you tick the box when you first create it and the data disk, etc.
And a lot of the time, it's not significant cost, but it all adds up.
Yeah. I mean, if these were premium disks, obviously you're not going to be paying for the compute costs anymore, but you're going to be paying for the storage costs.
Yeah.
So if you've got a terabyte premium SSD drive, it's going to be, you know, a few quid.
Understood. No, great tip. So brilliant. Thanks for that, Chris. The next thing I'd love to talk about is a longer term strategy. So what we've done is we've gone over how to look at some costs, some real quick wins. We've covered some where to get the advice and how to action savings plans and reservations. But from a longer term strategy, how do we turn cost management into a strategy and think about budgets and alerts? Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Yes, obviously people want to know about increasing costs of resources that are increasing costs before you actually get that big bill. So the one way to stop that is to create budgets. So again, it's there on my screen because I use it quite often, but you can literally just search for budgets, and this will bring us to this pane here. Again, a budget is tied to a scope. So, for instance, this is the scope here, which is the management subscription.
Okay. So if you only had one subscription.
If you only have subscription, then that's fine. However, if you have multiple subscriptions and management groups, you might want to do them at different levels.
Okay. Right.
So yeah, we're going to do it at the management group level. We'll click add. And then what that will do is it will bring up a view of monthly costs for this particular subscription over a period of time. So obviously it's giving us these which are previous and current month, and then projected forecasted future months.
Okay, so this is analysing what we've spent over the last few months and what it predicts to be the future.
Yeah.
And therefore we can now set some parameters because, correct me if I'm wrong, that's what a budget is. You can set some parameters to ensure your costs stay within those set parameters. But if there's any deviation, then you get notified.
Yep. So what we do is obviously we're going to create a, as you can see, this is the management subscription. So we're going to call it management subscription budget. And then we can have a period of when this resets. So I would suggest that you create multiple budgets for each subscription or resource group. So a monthly, quarterly and annually. So you can actually get the projected costs over a short and long period of time. So we're going to go monthly. And then what you'll find is it's saying, well, looking at the cost analysis here, the average spend is about £205. So if we stick it as £205.
Okay, so that's the analysis Microsoft have carried out and suggested that's your budget range. Okay.
So then if we click next, then what we have is we have different types of alert conditions. So actual, I generally put this at 100%, and you'll have to create an action group as well. So the action group is what happens when an alert is triggered, so you can set it to email, etc. So yeah, forecasted we're going to set to 80%. And what that will then do is it will allow us to say, well, when the forecasted costs are at 80% of that, which in this instance would be £164, it will create an alert to send to whichever.
Okay, so the parameters are being set of the alert.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Deviation from those parameters will notify us, which is really important. Either in actual terms, you can set it, or projected terms.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And that's budgets in a nutshell.
No, fantastic. Thank you very much for that insight, Chris. So what I'd really like to do is share some of our experiences with you. And we've been doing this a long time. So me and Chris have both experienced some anomalies that customers have shown us and some that we've detected. Chris, just sometimes we see some spikes in costs and customers ask us to try and analyze why that's happened.
Yeah.
But more interestingly for me and you are ones where we're just on talking to a customer and we're looking through their Azure. Let me share one with you I had 3 weeks ago where we were speaking to a customer. We were looking actually at some security recommendations, but happened to be an advisor as well. But I just noticed that their SQL, one of the SQL machines was adding a significant cost. And when I asked what it was, you hear that dreaded answer, I don't know, Irfan, can we have a quick look? And what happened was one of the developers was supposed to start this really beefy SQL machine for a day, maximum 2, and we were into day 14, so the cost had gone to about £2,000, Chris.
Yeah.
And I was thanked for spotting it and bringing it down, but you've experienced stuff like this as well.
Yeah, so I've had similar on storage accounts where they'd set the parameter to be, rather than 100 gigabytes, they added an extra 0, so it was a terabyte of premium storage. And I think they had a bill for, I think it was £23,000.
I do remember this, and just some general advice. If your intention is 100 gig and you accidentally add a terabyte, it's terrible, but not all is lost because it's evidently a mistake. And if you have got nowhere near the 100 gig and you do raise it with your CSP provider or Microsoft directly, you know, I think Microsoft have been very reasonable in that scenario. They did provide a refund and bring that back down because we were nowhere near the storage cost. So it was evident that that was a mistake. Yeah. But don't rely on that. It's really important to set these budgets and alerts. But there's a couple of examples, Chris, where just a single digit caused a significant bill and where someone had intended to do some work but then stopped doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much for that, Chris. I really enjoyed listening to your insights and your experience and how to navigate. So what we've done today for those watching is shown you really where to look in the first instance and how you should be analysing and finding the best fit for you, the views that look right for you, and then going to advisor, getting some advice from Microsoft, but not taking that literally, maybe speaking to your partner like Tiva to get some understanding of what those recommendations are. Then we recommended some quick fixes. We talked about reservations and savings plans that can achieve some really quick fixes and finding some anomalous behavior and some orphaned resources. And then the real important part, we discussed how to build a longer term strategy around cost management. It can't be reactive. You really do have to put together a strategy and budgets and have a forecast. And if there's any deviation, be alerted to that. Look, it's been great doing this webcast for you guys. We're going to do a number of more webcasts, but what I'd like to share with you is the time and effort we've taken and to build a cloud center of excellence here at Tiva. We've got an amazing team of engineers, adoption specialists and architects and strategists. Please do give us a shout if you need any help. If you're an existing customer, please contact your manager. If you're someone who's new to Tiva, please do contact us via our website. And we'd be happy to work with you. And finally, just thank you for your time. And a final thanks for Chris for his time as well. Have a fantastic rest of your day.